Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today I've got the best build for every mastery in the game. A lot of people have been asking me what the best mastery is for a lot of classes, and I thought that I would just throw it all into one spot for you. With that in mind, it can be argued, you could probably argue any one of these, because usually most classes have 2 or 3 really good builds. Some don't, and it'll be obvious, but in most cases, this is just my personal opinion of what the best build is for that class based on its overall performance between speed farming, doing the arena, bossing, all of it together. So it may not be good at just one of them, but overall it's a pretty solid build. All of them will be able to do all of the content in the game. So let's go ahead and start with number 1, and that's going to be Volka's Lightning Swipe Werebear. This is played as the Druid mastery. You're going to transform into a giant werebear, and then using your powerful claws, you're going to do melee attacks with Swipe, which is converted to lightning, allowing you to do really good elemental damage. On top of that, you'll have tons of leech, tons of defense, and be able to tank just about anything in the entire game. With that in mind, let's go ahead and move on to number 2. Coming in at the number 2 spot, we have the Runemaster Mastery, and with this we have the Hydrahedron Runemaster. This is where you summon a construct that is an automatic turret doing fire damage, spell fire damage to all the enemies, automatically firing at them, and all you have to do is summon it by using a lightning fire skill combination rotation, and then using your runic invocation. Very simple, very smooth, gets a little bit to get used to, but once you have it down, it is a very powerful build. Tons of damage, very quick, and of course very tanky with all the ward generation for the Runemaster. And that's why I place it as the best build for the Runemaster. With that in mind, time to go to number 3. Coming in at number 3, we have the Shadow Dagger Bladedancer, and this one is a very fast-paced build, but it's the plunge effect with Shadow Daggers that's guaranteed crit and stacks with both throwing and melee damage that allows you to get huge critical strike numbers, doing tons of damage both to single target and to all the enemies you run by. You can proc all of this just by shifting, which makes it an absolute nightmare for enemies, and with all of that in mind, with the insane tankiness of being able to dodge, constantly be on the move at a very high rate of speed, and be hit very rarely, this leads to it being one of the best builds for the Bladedancer. Coming in at number 4, we have the Sorcerer class, and with the Sorcerer class, this one is going to be based around Elemental Nova. Now there's a lot of good builds for the Sorcerer. You can play Meteor, you can do Glacier. Glacier is still a really good one, but for us, we're going to go with the Elemental Nova channeling build, and with this one, you do tons of damage. You're hitting 5 times a second with Elemental Nova and a big AoE. This one's completely lightning based. You're applying tons of stacks of shock, which is helping you stun enemies, which is really nice, and do more damage. Overall, this build is really quick, and if you mix in teleport, casting elemental novas through the use of teleport as well, it can be much faster paced. But again, the end game is really easy with this one. The only annoying thing that I find with it is just having to constantly channel focus or having to hit enemies with mana strike to get your mana back, as channeling Elemental Nova is going to use your mana really fast. But overall, a very solid build. It's been around for a really long time, and it is still good to this day. With its tons of damage reduction that it gets through several uniques, you can definitely do all the content in the game. Coming into the number 5 spot, we have the Shatter Strike Spellblade, and this one is a powerhouse when it comes to putting out damage, especially to single targets. Now, Shatter Strike has always been really strong. It's going to be cold based, you can build into crit, you can get more damage per sword that you have equipped. When dual wielding was put into the game, it allowed you to do a lot of extra damage with it. With the Morning Frost boots, it allows you to stack decks and get a whole lot of added cold damage to it, so it can hit really hard. And then of course you have the recast option inside of the skill tree, so that every time you use it, you can have it recast up to another 2 times, allowing you to basically get 3 hits with it per cast. And with a ton of attack speed, you can absolutely have it going off with about 15 to 20 hits per second, even higher if you scale enough attack speed, which is absolutely nuts. It has a nice AoE to it for a melee skill, and on top of all of that, it's great for tankiness because you can generate a ton of ward for all those hits. But with all that in mind, that is why I put it as the best build for the Spellblade. Coming into the number 6 spot, we have the Deathseal Lich, and Deathseal Lich has been around for a really long time. This version is going to be using crit, and it's going to have the death wave out of Deathseal, giving you a big AoE and hitting really, really hard. On top of that, you have Wandering Spirits and some other skills you can use for secondary damage. But it's great for speedrunning through echoes, as you can just have Reaper form, which reaps and counts as a transversal skill, lunging you forward, and then at the same time having that death wave in a big circle around you take out enemies as you run by. And that's why I've ranked it as the best build for the Lich. Coming in at number 7, we have the Necromancer class, and with this I went with the Fire Wraith Necromancer because the Fire Wraiths are extremely powerful. You can get them to 100% crit without it being too much of a challenge, and with their skill tree having a lot of more damage multipliers and the fact that you can constantly resummon them with Drain Life giving you unlimited mana and life, it allows you to have great survivability as well as spamming a high number of them for a high DPS output. They can do all the content in the game, they're really good at single target damage, and of course it's always fun to summon them around the map with the new minion affix that you can get on the exiled belts that allows minions to teleport with you, and that can make it much quicker for speed running. And with all of that in mind, that's why we've ranked it so high as the best build for the Necromancer. Of course, the Necromancer does have some other good builds, and the Golem Retaliation build was definitely one that I looked at, but in the end, Fire Wraith just felt so much better to me. Coming into the number 8 spot, we have the Marksman class, and with the Marksman class, I'm going with the Hail of Arrows Marksman, and Tunk's version of it is probably the best build for it. I've never played it myself, but it is a very powerful build. It's great for speedrunning because you can throw out Hail of Arrows, which rains arrows down from the sky, as you can see in the gameplay, and you can have enemies run behind you right through it, so it's a great drop and go speed running for speed farming the echoes at the end game. And for single target, it's also really good. As you can see, it's doing huge damage numbers, and it's one of those that you don't have to channel, but it does do damage over time, which is really, really nice. On top of that, it's super tanky because you're getting a lot of leech from it, but outside of all that, you're also a rogue class, which means you have tons of dodge, glancing blow, and other sources of defense. And with all of that in mind, that's why I've put it as the best build for the Marksman. I will say though, if you're looking for a Marksman build, the Bow Mage is also a really, really good build that's a lot of fun to play. But let's move on to number 9. Coming in as the 9th mastery, we have the Shaman, and with the Shaman we have the Spriggan Totem build, and this build is very powerful. You have single projectiles coming out of your Thorn totems, which you're casting with your Spriggan, so you're going to be very tanky. The Spriggan comes with a ton of armor and defense. You can have a ton of these totems. The totems also have vines that you can have summoned, and between the two of them and all the hits that they can apply, you're doing a ton of armor shred, a ton of hits, and the hits are hitting really hard, which allows you to clear maps and single targets very, very fast. If you're looking for a really good Shaman build because you love the Shaman, this is definitely one that I recommend. Coming in as the 10th mastery, we have the Beastmaster, and with the Beastmaster, the best build for it is the Squirrel build. The Squirrels hit very, very hard. You can build into them with 100% crit, and they attack super fast, especially when proccing Scurry and Rage, which you can have 100% uptime, giving all of your 10 squirrels raging red glowing eyes and making them attack faster while doing more damage. It gets really, really nutty playing with the squirrels. As you can see in the gameplay, you can clear through maps extremely well. The single target damage is where it really excels at, and of course it's super tanky considering that you have access to Warcry, which can make you invulnerable for up to 33% of the time with some cooldown reduction, as well as heal you every 3 seconds when it goes off, which is really nuts. With that in mind, that is why I put it as the best build for the Beastmaster. Coming in with the 11th mastery, we have the Void Knight, and the Void Knight has a lot of strong builds. It also has my favorite build, the Auto Bomber, but for here we're going to do the Echo Warpath, and it is very, very powerful indeed, allowing you to have up to 3 Warpaths on a single target, so it's great for single target damage. At the same time, you can speed run through maps very, very quick, especially if you have a Pothy's Maul Axon with Dark Stride boots, giving you more move speed per 10 flat added void damage that you have, and you can have a lot of it on this build. With all of that in mind, that's why I ranked it as the best build for the Void Knight. And for our 12th mastery, the Paladin class, we're going with the Nova Hammerdin. And the Nova Hammerdin is very, very powerful. You throw out hammers in 8 different directions in a Nova around you, and each one of them can hit really, really hard. You have high crit chance with it, very high damage output. On top of that, the hammers can go your entire screen, which allows you to hit enemies from far away. The single target can be kind of lacking, but the hammers do hit hard, and the more throwing attack speed you put into the build, the better that it will feel. Overall, it is a very powerful speedrunner as well as single target boss killer. With all of that in mind, it's why I've ranked it as the best Paladin build. And coming in as the 13th and final mastery, we have the Forge Guard class. And with the Forge Guard class, the best build for it is going to be the Shield Throw Mana Fist armor, in which you throw out a shield super fast, hitting your Mana Fist armor that you've summoned and making him do a sweeping attack that can do a ton of damage in a small AoE. It is great for single targets. Running echoes can be a bit slower, but it is a very powerful build capable of doing all of the content in the game. And that's going to wrap it up for all of the best builds for every mastery currently in the game. Don't forget that we have 2 new masteries coming at 1.0 on February 21st, both the Warlock and the Falconer. Can't wait to get my hands on those and see some builds that everyone comes up with, as well as create some of our own. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with these being the best builds for every mastery. If you think that you know a build that is better than the ones that I've listed, go ahead and put it in the comments below and I'll take a look at it. That's going to wrap it up for this video. As always, stay safe and have a good one.